following episode of Dave's Video Graveyard contains spoilers and naughty words. Listener discretion is advised.
Take your stinking paws off me, you damn dirty ape!
We're going streaking!
Dave's Video Graveyard.
That guy in a little coat.
At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
I'm not a smart man.
Shut up!
One tubby.
What's wrong with him?
My first thought would be alive.
Why so serious?
Wise man say forgiveness is divine, but never pay full price for late pizza.
Hail to the king, baby.
Hey, Mom! The meatloaf! We want it now! The meatloaf!
Of all the radio shows in the world, this is definitely one of them. Dave's Video Graveyard on 100.5 WOWFM.
Okay, you people sit tight, hold the fort, and keep the home fires burning. If we're not back by dawn, call the president.
It is 100.5 WOWFM, Dave's Video Graveyard for your Monday night. Massive thanks to Greedy taking us through Rev Heads this evening. Polly, how you doing, man?
Doing good, man. How about yourself?
Industrial Light and Magic are coming to Australia. Did you hear the news today?
I did not hear the news today.
George Lucas is opening a branch of Industrial Light and Magic in Sydney or Melbourne.
Okay.
And that's pretty exciting.
It is exciting.
He was so impressed with the Rundle Mall food that he decided that it was the right continent to be on. So, what have you been up to, man? Much happening this week?
Not much. Just filling my school holiday time with forensic files, and that's about it.
Now,
just learning how to kill.
I've been watching Pee Wee Herman movies with my kids, so it's been interesting.
You know what? You just out-creepy someone who watched a bunch of forensic files this week.
Everyone come out and heralded, as they should, Kurt Russell, the greatest man on earth, when he was in Guardians 2 and how young he looked.
Yeah.
Which we've since found out was the guy from Heavyweights. But anyway, much to my surprise, Paul Rubens in the 2018 Pee-wee movie.
Yeah.
Uncanny. Like, I don't know how much makeup he has on.
Yeah, well.
He looks amazing.
Well, you know. Special effects come a long way these days.
Now, following on from a week where the internet caught on fire because of The Little Mermaid.
Yeah.
It's probably a bit early because it was only announced today. But I'm pretty sure within the next week there's going to be another fire because it was announced today that a second 007 is being added to the next movie with Daniel Craig.
Yeah.
And
I read this. When I hear fanboys getting butthurt, I hear it from like a miles away. Yeah, Lashana Lynch will be taking over the 007, but it's part of the movie. Basically, builds up to what the movie's going to be about because Daniel Craig's essentially retired in the next Bond, and Christoph Waltz is coming back.
Yes.
In the villain role. So
as
yeah,
Blofeld, I think.
Yes, he's coming back as Blofeld. So that poorly kept secret of the last film.
It is the 15th of July today, so I want everyone to note down this prediction. The comments on the YouTube trailer for that 007 movie are going to be disabled the day it is released.
Oh,
I
my
promise you. It's going to be a lot of Last Jedi fans upset with that one, I think.
Yep.
The same fan backlash. Now, this evening's a very special evening. It is a guest choice special, and we are joined by Steve Scholz from the Toy Room Tattoo Emporium, plus many other things. Steve, how you doing?
Hey, g'day. Not bad.
Now, we have a... I guess you'd call it uncanny. Some would say creepy background, as in we've intertwined over the years but never actually met properly. You were my video guy.
I have that singular distinction. It is my greatest memory and also my greatest sadness.
I'm just sorry you're going to have to reprint all your business cards. But yeah, so basically you have a massive history of being around film.
Oh, yeah. Let's say my first ever cosplay was the preview night of Return of the Jedi in 1983. And I went in costume, and at the session I was at, I was the only person in costume.
Were you an Ewok?
I was Luke Skywalker.
It's just like this fuzzy.
Now, being that it was the first time you'd seen Jedi, what did the costume consist of? Did you go Empire Luke? Did you go?
Oh, look,
New Hope?
it was. I had a wooden stormtrooper belt with
Yep.
wooden blocks and like a calico Luke Skywalker Tatooine outfit and some rags wrapped around my feet, and that was it. It was the most incredibly basic costume I could pull off.
That is awesome. My only distinction of being a Star Wars fan was I was a massive fan at a time where basically maybe 93 I fell madly in love with the franchise. So from about then until 1997, other than Power of the Force toys, you couldn't find Star Wars merch.
There was a thing.
I remember seeing in a bootleg shop in Hindley Street on one family vacation, there was a Return of the Jedi, like a grey wash style montage shirt with it black and white on the back as well, because it was a bootleg. And that's the first Star Wars shirt I'd seen in my entire life. And then we got the re-release. Will they be making an appearance on your list this evening?
The revisited version of New Hope is essentially the Blu-ray version, but it's been played with by an English fella, his name Adwin or something, and he's taken all the crappy bits of the special edition out.
So Jabba's tail never gets stepped on?
No, never.
Fantastic.
And he's added all these tiny little moments into the film. Like in the cantina sequence, the aliens blink and they emote through their rubber face. They give the rubber just a little bit of movement, and it's like, wow, that just makes so much of a creation that just... It was great to start with, but it just gives it that realism that it lacked.
Was it the Revisited that they removed the werewolf from the cantina?
No. The Revisited version is essentially a fan film. A single man went through the entire Blu-ray and just played with it a little bit. 80% of the film is exactly the same, but there are little moments. He's re-edited the Darth Vader Obi-Wan fight and added a bit of music from Revenge of the Sith, and Chewie gets a medal, and and the Death Star battle times it by a factor of 10. There's always like Yavin hovering in the background in shots and battle going on in the background, and it's so much more exciting. I showed it to a group of Star Wars fans one night, and they had no idea it even existed, and I swear to God there were tears streaming down our faces because of the unbridled joy of seeing a fresh version of Star Wars that was as close to perfect as you could ever want.
Wow, that does sound fantastic.
But you're saying that he doesn't step on Jabba's tail.
The whole sequence is removed.
No, I don't.
But one of the gorgeous bits is the whole hand shot first bit. It's gloriously executed.
Nice.
Did you ever manage to see Topher Grace's cut of the prequel trilogy? You know Topher Grace from the 70s show? He made a supercut film out of the 3 prequels.
I'm aware of it. I've not seen it.
Me neither, but I want someone to vouch for it before, because I cannot stand Topher Grace. So I've never bothered. But I want someone to see it and go, yes. It will stop me from getting upset.
No, because then the other alternative is like he needs more work in order to not have that spare time to do that stuff.
I honestly, in my mind, I picture it's just the prequel cut much shorter. And just him chroma keyed into the background occasionally. And he just waves with
Hey,
a
what's
wooden-
up? Hey.
And he's dressed like Foreman as well. It's good.
I was Venom.
Pretty much. So tonight... Oh, back to you. Sorry. You have a massive history of cosplay.
Oh, yep.
You have had... I can vouch, because without even meeting you, we saw... In 2014, I believe it was Supernova, possibly, or it may have been one of the first Comic-Cons. You were dressed as Groot, stilts and everything. Amazing. Like, how much tweaking is there when you decide you're going to do a costume? Do you shoot straight for the stars, or do you build up to perfection?
All right, Groot, when I first saw the very first pictures of Groot, he appealed to me instantly. And he wasn't even a big part of the initial merchandising push. I mean, Rocket Raccoon was the one.
Yeah.
All the toys were about him. Groot was nowhere to be seen. The first picture was like, I I reckon I could do that. And I had mad plans about building like a puppet version of Rocket on my shoulder, and I'd have like a fake arm, and it was nuts. But eventually, as I got to see a little bit more, I realised, okay, he's got to be as slender as possible. So the whole arm thing, that's not going to work. But every time I aimed for a certain date to have it done by, it just didn't quite make it, because I found out more about how I wanted to do the costume, and it stretched out the costume build by about... it took me 12 months from woe to go to get it finished. Yeah. And in that time, there was about 6 months of hardcore building. And it just got more and more detailed, because the more I worked out about by that time, the movie had come out, and I was like, oh, God, I can do this now. I can sculpt this. And it became a completely hand-sculpted piece. There's no casting or anything. And it just was worth doing it properly. Really, really, and getting every little detail as close to possible. Key things, like the look on his face. I'd seen so many Groot costumes made where the look was just bland. It was completely unemotive. Yeah. So I just gave him the tiniest little smile just to give him character. And I also figured, look, he needed eyes. I wasn't going to wear full black Securol lenses, because that's going to kill. But having the eyes and the character gives it life as well. And it just works so brilliant. It's the best thing I've done. It's my proudest costuming moment, without a doubt.
There was no point that you rage quit and you just like, no, that's it. I'm going to be Groot in a pot, and you just got a 44-gallon drum. Done.
Look, when I started putting the pieces together and started test fitting them and attempting to walk around on the stilts and just make sure I was going to be safe, because I was very, very, very concerned that I could rip an ankle or something, so I made sure my ankles were just fully locked down. They weren't going to roll. I couldn't have rolling ankles on this thing. But it actually became very easy to move and walk, and I'm so comfortable with it now. I could, if I was really game, run in that costume. Yeah. But I'm not going to.
No, I can imagine, and especially if you're on a convention floor, I'm sure some children will change your trajectory pretty quickly. Before Groot, how high did you shoot when you were making costumes prior to Groot? Look, were there some amazing ones? Or
I grew up in a period of cosplay where we didn't have the internet, we didn't have the resources, we just... And there was a lower level of costuming attention to detail. Yep. There were certainly a lot of people who were extremely brilliant in creating some amazing pieces. But the sort of the heights that you shot for weren't necessarily there. Close enough was good enough more often than not. And it was just fun. There was no real sense of just like, it's not good enough. It was just like, no, just have fun, just enjoy it. And now cosplay is something akin to warfare. It's like, oh my God, just do what you want to do. Doesn't have to be perfect every time. But the thing is, now with the internet research, you can find every little detail you've ever wanted to know about a costume. When it comes to making our Mad Max costumes, we can find out every little thing about these costumes. Exactly what make of shoulder pad and what make of baseball shin guard. Yeah. Everything is nailed perfect. And 3D printers, they blow my mind. I mean, I don't have one yet, but it's amazing what you can do now. It's just, the sky's the limit. And you have no idea how lucky the cosplay community is right now. It's a golden age.
Now, as I said, back in the day, I was a constant patron of your video shop. Massive mural on the side of it that was all different film characters. You're an artist as well.
Yeah.
That was your work, I'm assuming?
Yeah. I was lucky enough to do that in work time. And I've recently just finished it, actually.
Really?
It was purchased by a family, and it's up in their den. And the second painting had a ton of empty spots in it. It just never got finished. But it's finished now. About 3 months ago, I actually finished the painting off.
One thing that used to blow my mind, like I got to see it gradually because, it was weekly that I'd go to the store. But seeing it build, and there was quite often you'd see something that you... to many people would consider finished, and you could just tell that you were like, No, because you'd come the next week and like part of it had been buffed out and you'd started again on faces, you'd changed eyes or you'd repositioned hair, and it's amazing that I miss the days where a business had that kind of personal touch and love shown. Like it was a craft and you did it on the outside of your business, if that makes sense. Like that was aside from, that was just an embellishment on the building itself.
And it only ever got graffitied once.
Yeah. Oh, mate, how did that day play out? I bet you felt
look, I think it was Sean Connery got a bit of stuff across his chest. It didn't take long to cover that up, so that was an easy fix.
I didn't take the joke.
I was waiting for it.
Low hanging fruit, and I didn't take the joke. Thank you.
Yeah, so tell us more about your art. You are a tattoo artist as well.
Well, I've been a commercial illustrator for the better part of 23 years as well. I worked on magazines and comics and computer game design and trading card game design and just whatever jobs happened to come my way. And I transitioned from that into tattoo work.
You've obviously always been really into art?
Oh, God, yes. Yeah, it's been an absolute
How
passion.
badly did your schoolwork suffer? Because I bet you the front of one of your worksheets wasn't as impressive as the back of one of your worksheets.
Well, I certainly have got a few school books left over that have some really spectacular pieces of work in them.
Yeah. That's amazing. Like, I really cannot draw, and I'm not going to tell that story, Paul. It's okay.
Thank you.
We might jump into some music. Tonight you're going to be taking us through your 10 favourite movies and why. Be sure to let us know any cosplay that you did for any of these films.
I've done cosplay for all of them.
Lovely.
In fact, multiple.
Sucker Punch on this list.
Yeah, I know. I did a bunny mech.
We're going to call that the Paul and Steve fight section of the show.
I actually managed to get 20 of my friends to make costumes for a film they had not seen for the preview night, and it was fantastic. I love my friends.
And as I said to you when you told me that during the week, I wish I had 20 friends, let alone 20 that would do anything. So you're doing really well. It is 100.5 WOWFM, Dave's Video Graveyard for your Monday night. Steve, you're going to be taking us through your 10 favourite films of all time, and I've got to make an admission that the first thing on your list, I only know of it because of Ready Player One.
No, Buckaroo Banzai.
Yeah. So tell us all about your choice.
All right, The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai Across the Eighth Dimension is just the craziest film ever made. It has the most incredible cast of up-and-coming to-be stars. I mean, it's just crazy how many people are in this.
RoboCop is quite upsetting when you can see the top half of his face, I feel. I honestly do.
And Jeff Goldblum and John Lithgow. It's just, it's fantastic. But it just has such a convoluted story that actually takes repeat viewings to understand what's going on. The first time I watched it, I was just dumbfounded. It made no sense, but it was so much fun. The second viewing was like, oh, hang on a sec, I think I got it now. And from that moment on, I was just hooked. It was just crazy out there filmmaking.
I had every intention of visiting this when you put it on your list. To me, it has that almost like Time Bandits or Baron Munchausen, just that surreal, hard to make sense of it. And I'm a grumpy old man that needs things hand-fed to me.
Well, this is a movie where you're thrown into the deep end immediately. There's no introduction. There's no sort of like soft landing. It's just like, all right, this guy, he does this. He's working in the operating theatre at the start. Then he's driving a test car. Then he's driving through the middle of a mountain with a physics experiment. Then he's encountering aliens from another dimension. You know, and that's all just in the first few minutes. So it's it really doesn't give you much of a chance. You just have to go with it. And the whole film plays out as if everything is so built around these guys. They are literally the biggest legends on the planet. And it even extends to the DVD commentary, where one of the characters is on the commentary talking to the director about the first time that Peter Weller and Buckaroo Banzai met, and how he got under Buckaroo's skin and learnt what made him tick, and just brilliant.
We have been requested from our friend Jamie to do this on the podcast, so you might have to take your grumpy man pants off and watch it.
I've just done a bit of research, not just looking on IMDb, from the writer of Big Trouble in Little China, so I have no excuse to not see this film. But in the other column, from the writer of Stealth, so column A, column B. But no, it does look fantastic. And like I say, it's heavily featured in Ready Player One, which I was a massive fan of. That film, Paul wasn't a massive fan, but for my kids, it was like Jurassic Park for me. I took them to the movies, and it blew their minds in a way that Jurassic Park did for me as a kid. What did you think of that film?
I am not embarrassed to say that I squealed with delight on numerous occasions. I remember crying during Jurassic Park. We went to a special morning breakfast showing of the film where we got breakfast given to us with our ticket.
Yeah.
And I remember just crying so hard when we saw the brontosauruses for the first time, because not only was it just such a great, beautiful moment, but it was the cusp of new technology for movies. And it was like, oh my God, what are we going to see in the future? This is what I'm seeing now. What is going to be out there in 10 years? It was just the most incredible moment.
And then Lost World came out and you're like, that's what.
And Jurassic Park 3 came out.
Yeah, and you're like, maybe we should stop it. Maybe we should go back in time and stop him.
It's just weird that the greatest practical effect for a dinosaur outside of Jurassic Park is Super Mario Brothers film, because Yoshi looks amazing to this day. I watched that movie this week. I feel like John Leguizamo needs to start paying me money for how often I watch his films.
Oh yeah, look, it should be a film by film basis.
Is this one you revisit constantly? Are you pushing it on everyone? Buckaroo Banzai, or is it just a guilty pleasure for yourself?
No, look, anyone who hasn't seen it inevitably is going to be forced to watch it and made to and given kind of a little helping hand to help explain what the film's like. It is something that I feel people, if you love film, you've got to see this movie.
In defense of anyone that hasn't seen it though, are you one of those, watch this bit, here comes this bit kind of person? Because that makes things very difficult on a first viewing.
Yes. Well, there are key moments in the film that are so understated. They're literally, you almost think it's not important because they're not making a big thing about it. But it's like the crucible for the entire film. And it's so downplayed. And it's like, that's freaking nuts.
It's like an uninvolved commentary. You're like, see this bit here. I'm the member of my family that my 11-year-old will at least humour me and be like, oh, that's really interesting, Dad. Whereas my wife will be like, who's Kurt Russell? And I'm like, no, don't be like that. So just having another quick look at your lists before we move on. Oh, yes, a very unknown. You've picked an indie film. A very, didn't make much money. I haven't actually heard of it or seen this movie. It's called Titanic. Is it an adult movie? Titanic?
Yeah, it's all about breast enhancement.
You have chosen James Cameron's Titanic, his second best film, third best film. What are you?
Keep going.
No. Tell us why you picked Titanic from 1997.
I don't know. It's just, I've always been an aficionado of the whole Titanic history. It's endlessly fascinating to me. And it just, I mean, I almost kind of could just easily remove the little love story bit and just enjoy it on a historical basis. But it's just a gut-wrenching experience to watch it. Just the sequences with the sinking are like some of the most emotionally draining film experiences I've ever had. And
because it took so long.
well, so much so, I actually had the chance to do a display for it for the 3D release. And I built a 4-metre-long Titanic going down by the head up on top of the ticket office and had it all lit up with lights and everything. And this thing was gigantic. I was nuts for trying to build it. It literally almost touched the roof of the Megaplex. And I just like, oh, dear God, please don't fall down. Please don't fall down. Please don't fall down like that thing that fell down once. Don't do that.
We went and saw this for a year 6 class excursion.
Oh gosh,
that's how big of a cultural impact this film had. Where
Dave was 40 at the time.
The school rules were very lax in 97.
But you got through.
The cinema was 2 blocks from the school. I didn't do anything wrong. And I sat next to the girl I had a crush on. And I will never forget, this film still triggers me. When the band keeps playing, I was like, hold it together, hold it together. All right, just take a big breath in and you'll be fine. And my breath in did that. And I then got my puffer out, had way too many puffs to try and pass it off as if I was having an issue with asthma. It was embarrassing, and it still is to this day. I didn't realise it was still embarrassing until I told that story, and now I'm blushing.
Did she kiss you?
Did you draw like one of your French girls?
I did, but then the principal was like, 2 blocks, mate. 2 blocks.
Did you one of the funniest things I've seen in the last few years about this is there's a comic where they it doesn't sync and then it comes back
the
and
guy who owns the car.
Guy owns the car. He's like, they have sex in the backseat of.
There's a meme that's in a world where the Titanic didn't sink, and the guy's like, "Why is there jizz all over the back of my car?"
It was like, this is the only time that film has given me any joy.
Why are you such a grumpy old man? This film is delightful.
I was working at the video store at the time this came out, and I had endless amounts of like...
Was it the Bohemian Rhapsody
mid-40s couples going, oh, it's so good, it's so good. Oh, Kate Winslet, and Leo. And I'm just like, I don't want to see this. Because you worked in a store. How much does it customers kill your affection for a film sometimes? Like, I hate Fight Club to this day because so many people came in and just said it's like, this is the best thing ever, and like you finally watch it, I'm like, it's not. It's not.
No, I just always enjoyed whether or not someone liked a film or not. You know, it wasn't impacting my personal experience.
Oh, we had different experiences in videos.
I endlessly, and the reason I stayed there so long, I loved talking to my customers about film, and I certainly had more than a few that would just hang around for ages, and we would just talk film. It was a great experience.
I love that. It was just like Fight Club, Titanic, Matrix. Don't do a few of those ones because I was
you were just super grumpy in the late 90s. What was your problem?
Late 90s, early 2000s, late 2000s.
That being said, it's amazing how much like something can really ruin your experience of a film. I went to the preview of Matrix, and there was this old dude who was just literally just a few seats away from me, and he was so vocal through the whole film. Like, what is this rubbish? What's going on? What the hell? What's that? And it was just like...
So that was you next to me. That was me.
That made the film suck so hard.
Oh, look, we've talked at length on this show about the cinema experience affecting.
I'm bringing it up again.
Do it.
I went to see the second Transformers movie, and I was pretty excited because I thought the first one was pretty fun. A man ate a hot Coles chicken in the seat 3 rows over from me. And to this day, I have so many questions.
With his hands.
Single serve, a Coles chicken, and the smell of a hot chicken does smell like a dirty nappy if you're not 100% sure it's a fried chicken.
I reckon I can beat you on that one.
All right.
Full Metal Jacket. Went to go and see that, and the guy, like a couple of seats, or maybe over a bit, we're pretty sure, we could smell it. We're pretty sure he was pissing in his cup.
Oh, man.
It was vile. Kind of gave us night atmosphere for the movie, but that was just never seen that happen.
What film?
I want you to watch this Method.
That's right, Full Metal Jacket.
He wants you to be Method. Yeah, I've had so many. disturbing, like watching the new Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the 03 one, and guy coming up after me and he's like, that was amazing, like really amped up about murder. And he's like, we should make a band. We should make a... Because I stupidly said I was in a band. He's like, we should do a band about serial killers. Do a song on each serial killer. I'm like... And he wouldn't let me leave until I gave him my number and name. And that was the first time I gave a fake name and number.
You're now married to that guy.
Yeah.
It's the start of
we got it. It was a bump in the road.
I used to work at a video store where this guy kept coming in and he had such a superficial taste in films. And that's being judgy. But he always liked to present it as, like, just, I'm into really extreme stuff. And this is before, like, the likes of Hostel and that made, like, all the torture porn back into vogue. And so he's always like, I really love stuff. And so I gave him Day of the Dead. And he's like, oh, this is so long and boring. He's like, I like extreme stuff. And I'm like what? And he's like, oh... And I can't remember what he said. So I'm like, he was really bothering me. So I'm like, right, here's this movie called Irreversible. You will love it. He went home and watched it, and he never spoke to me ever again. It's the best thing I ever did in the video store when I worked there. Good on you, madman.
Name-checking Day of the Dead. Stranger Things had Day of the Dead in it, and I'm very happy about that.
Yes, it did.
It was one of the good things about that season.
I've since revisited the final episode, and it's glorious. I'm fine with it.
You're good? Okay,
I was worried about it, but it's fine now. We might get back into the music here on DVG as we continue the Guest Choice Special. It is 100.5 WOWFM, Dave's Video Graveyard. There we have from My Chemical Romance with one of the coolest music videos of all time. The greatest music video outside of Enrique Iglesias' Hero music video, which I love very much. That was Desolation Row, and it's taken from the soundtrack of the next film on Steve's list. Tell us what this film is.
Watchmen.
One of the most polarizing comic book adaptations of all time, which I personally think is unfounded because it is flawless.
Oh, it is incredible. They streamlined it beautifully for the film. Took some bumpy elements out that just... And it just... Oh, God, it was... One of the biggest moments in my cosplay life was gathering together a group of friends and going to the preview of Watchmen in costume. And we had all the major players. It was so incredible. I had a huge long ponytail for 15 years. And that afternoon...
It was creepy because it wasn't even on your head.
No.
You just collected it.
I don't know who this was.
I had it cut off that night for the comedian costume, and I turned up and nobody recognized me. With the mask, the whole costume, fresh facial hair, and the short hair. It's just like, who's that guy? Oh crap, it's Steve. It was just brilliant. And oh God, it's just an amazing, incredible, detailed, loving adaptation of the comic book. And the first experience I ever had with the graphic novel was travelling to a convention in Melbourne, and all 12 issues of the comic had come out by then. It hadn't even been gathered together in a graphic novel, and we were handing them around the buses we were driving over. And I'd never read anything like this. It was like, oh my God, there's a rape scene. Oh my God, oh wow. And we were losing our minds. This was like the most amazing story we've ever read. So it was a long gestating period for that to come out, and its final arrival was a thing of beauty.
Well, in an attempt to outdo your story, the first time I saw this film, it was handed to me by a man dressed as the comedian. And that man was you.
Yeah.
I was actually going to watch that film with my kids. We'd hide 2 DVDs that night. They'd fallen asleep in the first one, and then I watched this on my own. Lucky. Very lucky.
Just a bit.
I'm not a very conscientious consumer. I don't read warnings, so...
Well, I got to say...
What a film.
I was concerned being dressed as the comedian, knowing there were going to be certain scenes coming up in the film, because this is a reprehensible character. He is a nasty piece of work. And
Alan Moore has some issues, and that's putting it very lightly.
And some. But it's cool. I'm so pleased I created that costume. It's been one of my favourite go-to cosplays, and it's really cool to be able to win an award on stage and not even say a word. It's all just presence.
I love the trajectory also of Jeffrey Dean Morgan's career, because he then went on to The Walking Dead, and I always bring this up. He is the only guy that could act on the show, and it made all the other actors go, What's he This guy's acting. What are we supposed to do? This guy's acting really well. Did you see his film The Losers?
Oh, hell yeah, that was great.
Love that movie. I can sell it to people now because of elements in it. It's like, oh, it's got Captain America in it. It's got Idris Elba. It's amazing. But it's not, but I love it. What do you said you haven't seen is it the Amazon Prime series? Who's making the Watchmen series?
Amazon Prime. Oh,
HBO,
sorry, yeah. It's looking odd. But
it is looking very odd.
The one thing that was quite jarring was seeing all those Rorschachs in one of the things. I'm like, stop doing stuff I don't know. Because I will admit, after seeing the film, it blew me away to a degree where I actually backtracked and I got the graphic novel, which I have to this day. We unfortunately looked into Alan Moore when we did League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, and not a fan anymore. What do you think of that? Fantastic.
The comics for League are incredible. It's like a history lesson, and if you have the chance to get the trade paperback that sort of backtracks everything and helps you understand everything, just amazing. The movie. Oh God.
You pretty much summed up our podcast on that movie.
Yeah.
We went to the movie in costume. It was so embarrassing.
And one thing I'll say about Watchmen, I think it was an insight to what we really did miss by not having Zack Snyder helm the current DC to the degree he wanted to.
Yeah.
Obviously, family tragedy prevented that, but the Justice League that he would have come out with is an exciting prospect instead of the mishmash that we got.
Yeah. Well, they keep talking about a potential Zack cut of it, whether or not that ever appears.
But then other people come out, a lot of people close to the studio have come out and said that it doesn't exist. And then people close to Zack are like, yeah, it does. And he released those stills of a whole heap of alternative shots of Batfleck. And he said, he was the best Batman ever. But it didn't get to be shown in my films. What's your... Obviously, you're what's known in the industry as a comic book nerd. What do you think about superhero movies in general? Do you just any and everything?
Oh, look, it's a golden age. I mean, back in the day when we could enjoy Howard the Duck to its fullest extent, this is nuts. This period... I mean, even the ones that aren't the best are still better than anything that was back then.
It's good for Marvel fans.
What about the early 1990s Captain America and all those films? Were you a fan of those films?
There was nowhere to see them. I mean, if you were lucky enough to find a video copy of them somewhere, good on you. But they were nowhere to be found. They were literally just this kind of... If you might have gotten a bootleg of it that was 3 or 4 generations old, if you were lucky, it wasn't an issue. I mean, when Iron Man came out, who gave a crap about Iron Man? But it was an amazing film, and suddenly he's like their golden boy, literally.
And that's one thing that's so weird is in our current day and age of film, Avengers Endgame is the closest you could say to a current Citizen Kane, which is such a weird thing to think of. I really kind of want superhero movies to drop in quality again because I'm really hanging out for another Blank Man film. I want Damon Wayans back as Blank Man because that's where, is it Meteoroid Man and all those really terrible... Is there going to be another Dark Man? I bet you there is.
Oh, God.
There was 3 of them, wasn't there? 3 or 4?
Liam Neeson jumped ship after the first one because his contract was up.
Oh, Taken 4's not coming, so,
Schindler's List 2. That's what he's holding out for.
Extra Schindley.
Schindler's Fist.
Oh, God. I've got a bizarre set of skills.
Good times. We'll get back into the music as we continue here on DVG. There we heard from the Sucker Punch soundtrack a song that's already deleted off the system. So, yeah, it was a song. It was Search and Destroy. From 2011, this is the next choice on Steve's list of all-time favourite films. Paul, Steve's a guest. Be polite. And I will, as I told you, Paul did a list of his favourite and least favourite films. This was number 2 on his list. So there's only one other film that you could have picked that would have upset him more than Sucker Punch. Tell us all about it, Steve.
Well,
go. Do it.
I'll just turn Paul's mic off.
I have never had a film that has generated as much conversation as Sucker Punch has. It's either you love it or you hate it.
Yeah.
And the people who love it have peeled back the layers and layers and layers that this film has, and just there's so many different meanings and concepts that you can kind of attribute to certain scenes, and that alone is amazing. But I'm going to admit the incredible fantasy sequences are jaw-dropping. They literally make no sense, but oh my God, they are beautiful.
I still remember the feeling I got in 99 watching The Matrix on the big screen. It was like, what am I watching? Like, this is next level. I remember the samurai fight from the start of this and thinking, movies are visually gone to a place where I imagined they would go when I was a little kid. Like growing up watching Demolition Man. This is visually what I thought films were going to look like. A lot of hate it gets is, it's just Sky Captain in the World of Tomorrow. It's overdone. It's like, no, Zack Snyder is a different thing. Like, fair enough. A lot of people say that a lot of the biggest criticisms I see about Zack Snyder is it's style over substance, and I don't think that's the case in particularly this film. I have to deal with Paul next week, so I've got to choose my words. And it has that. I feel like this. Well, it has the levels like, not quite to the Inception level, but there's more. You're not just spoon-fed the story in this one. It's multifaceted.
I mean, you've got to literally break down every scene because there's clues in every piece of it.
That's because it's easy because it's all in slow-mo, so you can break down everything really, really easily. Continue.
Oh, man.
Continue. What's your favourite scene?
Oh, actually, my favourite scene is only from the director's cut, which is the...
They made it longer?
It's so much better. I think it's got to be the sequence that they introduced back into it of the burlesque show and the girls' individual...
I too was a fan of those scenes.
It was such a great little high... Oh no, just impressive moment. It just kicked ass, and it's got a great song attached to it as well, which is it's covered in the closing credits, but this is just the whole thing, and it's so good.
This film, I could be wrong, but it started the what's now become like a very cliched trope, the stripped down acoustic version of like a pop song or a bigger song from the... Because I remember the trailer had Sweet Dreams by the Eurythmics,
yeah,
stripped right back. It also features like different versions of Where Is My Mind and a few different songs throughout the film. Now it's like every film, they have to have that like, lonesome piano note with like falsetto female vocals singing like... Even the Ghostbusters 2016 had that, where it's just like this stripped back piano. But this film really surprises me because for all the films that people could hate, this one copped a lot of it.
Oh, it did, yeah. And I mean, this is where it sucks.
And with good cause.
But I mean, so
Your last
rarely...
Jediing. Your last Jediing.
It's so rare we get a film that is completely unique to cinema. It's not based on a novel or a comic or a television show or anything. It is a unique beast. We see that so rarely nowadays. And
is it though? Is it unique? Is it unique to put like, scantily clad women to like slow moving soundtracks and just like fantasy? Like it's just, there's nothing to this movie. I don't get what everyone else saw in this movie. It was just, it was like a 13-year-old's wet dream put to film.
All right.
Counterpoint. I was 26 in 2009.
Like I'm not look, people can like what they want. I don't care. I was just like, if this film in particular, I was like, I don't remember leaving a cinema more angry than this film, because I was just like, I'd seen him do Watchmen, Dawn of the Dead, 300, and it's just like, it just, I was, I don't get what the
Why
big
do you
deal.
want this film off of your porch?
I think I just expected more of him. Like he finally was doing original content, and it's like, all right, you've had like all these other things you can do, like remakes and comic books and stuff. Give us what you got, and it's like, this is my scrapbook from when I was 13, and I'm gonna put it to film, and like it's just and we'll get like, and
but
the emo music really bugged me, and the whole emo look really bugged me too.
We've said this before. Do preconceptions make a film not good?
No, not so much that. Like, it wasn't... and, like, it wasn't the sort of... I didn't think it was going to be the best thing in the world. But, man, like, for what I got from it, just was nothing.
It was... I took it from a viewpoint of almost being mindless. And it is visually stunning. Every single scene of it. Almost like a Robert Rodriguez just done too much. Like, tried too hard. But that's what I loved about this film. I can see your eyes are dying.
No, I just like
the light that was here when you got here is like dimming. Like
to me, it's like someone asking for 4K, but I'm still okay with VHS. It's like, and I'm not. That's fine. If you like 4K, that's fine. Like
I feel personally attacked by that.
But the thing is, like, I can deal with just like two people on camera just talking and like the everything's in that talking. But this was just like, it's just too much. But yeah, that's just me.
Well, I would like to see a 4-hour cut of it. The thing is,
I'd like to see 4-hour cut of the burlesque side of things.
All right, so breaking it down into kind of a interpretation, and this is only just spitballing here. I mean, it's never Baby Doll's story. It's always Sweet Pea's story. She's the focal character. So essentially, all the other players, Amber and Blondie, they're all pieces of Sweet Pea's psyche. And Baby Doll represents her strength, which until she arrives, she doesn't have. And it's once she arrives and starts pushing Sweet Pea to escape from where she is, the other parts of her psyche start kicking in. And it's only when they all form together, she sort of becomes mentally healthy enough to realise she has to escape, and escape she does.
Yep. And I think maybe one of the biggest issues a lot of people had with it were not supernatural, but a lot of the fantasy elements were literally just fantasy. Like, I think that was perhaps the most polarizing thing, and that a lot of it comes down to the marketing, because I was on board for all the giant samurais and the mechs and all that to be literally in the film, and that's what's happening. Then when you find out that it's a version of like basically dealing with the grief or dealing with what's happening, it's like, oh, but I want real mechs.
I just.
Well, look.
Why does every part of our psyche need a miniskirt? Is my thing.
Well,
it's just weird. Like I find it really weird that like
I can think of reasons. But
but like
can't say them.
Well, that's movement. You got to have your legs free for movement. You know? But here's the thing. You're passionate about it. You hate it, but you're passionate about it. It's not a film that's forgotten. So whether or not you love
it, don't do my words around me.
It made it to number 2 on your most hated list.
What was my number 1?
Suicide Squad.
Oh yeah.
All right.
I just killed the crickets. I'm really surprised to find out this film theatrically made $8 million. That's crazy. Made for 82 and made 90 at the box office. Dang, that's not what I'd expect from this film. It's visually fantastic. And if you watch it in 2 times speed, it's still a normal paced movie.
Any Wikipedia entry for a film that has a section of depiction of women?
I'm not clicking on that. We'll just put that into the 2011 category and move right
But I
along.
heard a Skunk and Nancy song for the first time in like 15 years, so...
First time on the show. It is 100.5 WOWFM as we have the Pillman-Paxton conversation. Once again, it is DVG. We're talking about Steve from Toy Room Tattoo Emporium's favourite films of all time. And he's picked a film from the good year of 1984, back when I was -1. Tell us about this film.
All right. It's June, the version done by David Lynch, and it's just dripping with gorgeousness. The attention to detail for production design is just one of the reasons why this thing is just lovely. It's just big, cuddly, lovely, wonderful, grainy, sandy. Oh, so good. I love it. Oh my God, it's amazing.
You kind of sound like David Lynch just said. I made a big worm film.
It's made of condoms.
Interesting thing about this movie. Go ahead.
Not a fan of David Lynch, personally.
Why? I made an album. It was good.
Because you made me watch a movie, you made me watch a mini-series about David Bowie vampires, and it was terrible as well.
Oh, I like that one. Anyway. Do you see this in cinemas?
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah.
That was a perfect day. I was in high school, and it was one of the rare opportunities I had to.
And this took up 4/3 of the
day. I reckon it was Star Trek 3, Dune, and Ghostbusters. We watched all 3 films in the same day.
What?
And it was like, oh my God, this is an amazing day. I'm not 100% sure that's accurate, but I think that seems to fit the pattern.
The timeline's pretty close.
But, it was just like, oh, this is great. This is like a space opera. You know, it wasn't Star Wars. It was a bit more serious, a bit more adult. But at the end of the day, it was the production design, the look, the sets, the costumes, the still suits especially. I mean, they're just big rubber suits, basically, big rubber muscle suits, but they're great looking big rubber muscle suits.
I think a lot of the pretty much the entire late 80s, early 90s, or all through the 90s, science fiction has a lot to answer for when it comes to production design of Dune, because like you look at like miniseries like Lex and all these other movies, all these other sci-fi shows, and it's like you've just cut, copy, paste a big part of Dune, and that's your whole thing. I have not revisited this film since the first time I saw it. As I said off air, I went in expecting Star Wars Adventure, and I got
didn't get it.
A space opera. I'd rather watch the prequel trilogy, but that's just my call. And Sting's
Screw you, David.
Yep.
Sting's in there somewhere.
Patrick Stewart with hair.
Oh, Patrick Stewart. Oh, Gurney Halleck. Yes. Wonderful.
Have you seen the poster for the new Picard?
Yeah, he's very
good.
understated, and
He's got a dog.
Yeah,
good on him. I'm sure he's like Picard and Hooch. It's gonna be good. That was my joke about Turner.
Yeah, I got it. I'm not going down the Star Trek hole with you.
Cosplay wise, a still suit is still high on my list of outfits to be made, and it's just it will be made eventually. And I think I've figured out the guts of it.
I can be the fat redhead guy if you need a companion piece.
The beast.
Yeah. So 2020, we're getting a new Dune. Just having a quick look. It's got Zendaya from The Greatest Showman, Dave Bautista, Jason Momoa, Stellan Skarsgård, Josh Brolin, Timothy Chalamet. His face is bothersome. Oscar Isaac. So I'll probably give it a go.
Well,
wow.
Here's hoping. Oh, I hope it's good. Oh.
Hope it goes for 6 hours.
I hope it goes for 6 hours.
Did you get into all the companion pieces of this? Like you said, there was a TV
Oh, look, I've read them so long ago. Yeah, it's incredible stories and a lot to remember as well.
Yet you still have 20 friends. How do you manage to do this? I read all of Dune and I have 20 friends. I'm going to fact check this. This doesn't seem to add up. I don't have 20 friends and I can't read. I'm so jealous right now. I'm green with envy.
Well, I'm just amazed I got 20 tickets to the damn thing. It was just sometimes the distributors are very, very generous, and I appreciate that.
How often will you revisit Dune in its 2-hour, 17-minute glory?
Oh,
or is there a longer cut you prefer?
There's a longer cut, the Alan Smithy version, but they've cut out all the really good gratuitous violence.
Because Alan Smithy's when a director removes their name from a project.
Basically.
So Lynch was out?
Yeah, no, Lynch it was a re-edited version, maybe done for television, but they took all the really nice gritty stuff out and it put a whole bunch of very cool scenes in.
They just intercut it with Masters of the Universe universe movie
So
from
you
87.
need to do like a Ulysses cut kind of thing and just put both versions of it together so it goes for 14 hours. That'd be marvelous.
Sweet. I'll give me a call when that happens.
Yeah.
I'll be busy. How often do you revisit this one?
Oh, I reckon I watch it at least once a year.
What? Sorry.
No, seriously.
I'm so respectful to Sucker
Hey,
Punch.
I've got all the toys
Can
for it.
I just say that if you don't have 37 tabs of Pornhub open on your phone, you get to watch movies.
X videos, thank you. I'm a multifaceted person.
Well,
you don't know me.
Unfortunately, I do.
Oh, here's the 2000 miniseries. Who was in it? Let's have a look. Anyone of note? Oh, William Hurt.
It was just such a wishy-washy version of it, though. You know, like all the costumes.
So they miniseries the story of the film?
Yeah. It's just, but again, from a production viewpoint, just the costumes seem to be made of more just, flimsy materials and stuff. It didn't have any weight as far as I was concerned. The butterfly dress. Oh, I hated the butterfly dress.
I honestly think if you visit the doco, I can't remember what it's called, but it's the director that was originally attached and what he was going to do and all his pre-production, you will not be able to sleep the night that you watch it, because even I was like, this dude looks sick. I would love it. All the production stuff that maybe went to a certain LucasArts studio, but honestly, I really highly recommend that as a companion piece to the original.
I'm aware of it, and I just need to watch it. Yes,
awesome.
Indeed.
Paulie, where does Dune fall into your sci-fi nerdedness?
I've seen it. It's probably my only favorite David Lynch film. I don't like a lot of stuff, but yeah, it's good. I was like with sci-fi. I like the like Soylent Green, like that sort of stuff. Yeah. So post-apocalyptic sort of stuff. Logan's Run. I can't believe that hasn't been remade. But I like the original Logan's Run, but it seems like a movie that would. There's movies that you just think, if that gets remade, why have they done that? So, yeah, I'll be looking for that at some point. But
following year, 1985, is the next choice of your list. A film that scared the hell out of me as a kid. And I still haven't revisited it because I'm pretty sure Meg Mucklebones is still looking for me. You have chosen Legend from 1985, particularly the director's cut.
Oh, God, yes. The director's... They released the film and they were just terrified. They didn't know what they had. And they went chippity-chop through the whole film and just took 30 seconds out here, a minute here. And they were pointless cuts. Absolutely illogical, pointless edits that just was why.
Do I remember they changed the outcome of whether or not one of the unicorns was killed or something? Or
Well, the unicorn sequence in particular is hacked to pieces. The princess is literally going to get her head kicked in by the unicorn. It's a great. She really has to tame it, and this thing is going to knock the crap out of her. But
I hope someone out there just tuned into that sentence.
But yeah, again, in the regular released version, which is pretty much the only version you can get, it's a very tame little sequence. But at the end of the day, it is just the most beautiful, unadulterated fantasy film. And it is just a collection of all the classic tropes of fantasy, sort of big gathered together in a big hug and lovingly rendered to the point of they're just these beautiful, delicate storyboard calendar characters, and just swirled around with Ridley Scott's endless glitter in the air and and snowflakes and leaves, and it's just and birds up in the ceiling pooping on everything and causing a gas leak and making the set burn down.
It certainly did. Yeah, that was in the UK, the entire studio, and I think it was the 007. It was some famous soundstage that had housed all these amazing productions, and it all died because the gas was trapped in or something.
Yeah. So that was a shame. It would have been interesting to see what would have happened if they'd managed to get those last few scenes. But
and absolutely amazing makeup effects on Tim Curry.
Yep.
Who did the makeup effects?
Rob Bottin.
I was going to say it definitely would have inspired the later works of Greg Nicotero, because it's all practical and it looks amazing.
I mean, there's an incredible piece of interview with Tim Curry when he was being made up. And little by little, Tim was disappearing under mounds of latex and hair, and it was just bit by bit, he was disappearing, and all that was left of him was his eyes. He said, please leave me my eyes. I can't act if I don't have my eyes. But no, in went the contact lenses, and it was like, oh my God, I look good.
This film terrified me as a kid. Like, I was a massive fan of The Labyrinth. And so I was like, I think I love fantasy films. And so Mum and Dad will, here you go, here's Willow. I was like, I love this film too. And they're like, here's Legend. I was like, Meg Mucklebones is going to kill me.
And that's Robert Picardo. That is so good.
So scary.
Juicy pie.
I have to revisit it, but it'll have to be during the day.
Oh, it's not. Look, as an adult, it's just like, it's like going to an art gallery to see the most beautiful collection of fantasy paintings you've ever seen in your life. It's just...
I think the upsetting thing to watch it now would be Tom Cruise's centre tooth. Because that is bothersome, to say the least.
This was like there was this one, Lady Hawk, Princess Bride was chucking there too, and Willow. I mean, I'm Team Willow, as you would know.
You'll be pleased to know I have done a Mad Mardigan costume.
Oh, excellent!
Please say it was the boobs bit.
Did you?
No, that was my favourite part of the film.
Please tell me that every kid that you walk past you called Peck. And I just remember this one. I liked it because it had Sloane Peterson from Ferris Bueller in it, and she's my girlfriend. And Dave loves Ferris Bueller.
My least favourite film of all the films I hate. This is DVG as we continue the guest choice special. It is 100.5 WOWFM Dave's Video Graveyard. Just in there we heard from Austrian Death Machine with the I'll Be Back, because the next choice is Kindergarten Cop.
Eat my shorts.
You have chosen the original Terminator, which is one of the two best. Tell us all about it.
All right, so it's 84. I'm in high school. I was old enough to actually drive to Adelaide this time to go and see it. And this movie came out of nowhere. I mean, who the hell was Arnold Schwarzenegger? Who the hell was James Cameron? Nobody knew these people. I was like, oh, that looks kind of like a cool sci-fi film. I went to see this film. All I could think while I was watching this film was, who dug into my brain and made my brain come to life on the screen? This is everything I've always wanted to see.
I swear I was drawing robot skeletons before I ever saw a Terminator film. It's just so organic. It's such a great thing. I will stand by that the original Terminator is a horror film. That's how I personally feel.
Yeah.
And Terminator 2 being an action film and the greatest film, as we all agree without talking. Yep, cool. We all agree. Good job. This film is amazing, and I will admit that Terminator 2 is a best of hits of Terminator 1, as in it took all the best elements and just did them again and just added a little bit of glitter, I guess you'd say. Especially if it was a Baz Luhrmann film, it would literally be glitter. This film originally going to be O.J. Simpson. That would have been...
or Lance Henriksen, for that matter.
Oh, man. I saw him in a film on the weekend, and it was delightful to see him.
Say Near Dark.
No, that's one of Catherine Bigelow's okay films. It was actually Mum and Dad, the Nicolas Cage film from last year.
Oh.
I've just ruined a big part of it because it's great when he shows up. I did not know he was originally going to be the Terminator.
Yeah, this is crazy.
One thing I always found hilarious with Near Dark, if you watch the director's commentary and Lance Henriksen does a commentary, he wrote like a book of backstory about the vampire that has nothing to do with what you see on film at all. And I just love, that's when I realized what a kind of wanker he was, because I was like, oh, well, here's my backstory. And he even says, this would have been the greatest film of the 80s if it wasn't for the Lost Boys. I feel like we suffered because the Lost Boys did it first. And I'm like, shut up, Lance. Go and make Millennium so you can scare me to go to bed early.
That's a generally scary show.
Millennium was bedtime for me because it scared me so much.
Yeah, no.
That was just last week. Anita puts it on stand and I go to bed scared.
I remember because, like, usually most people see T2 first. And I watched that first, and then I found my brother's VHS of this one. And it's still, to this day, my favourite over T2. Like, I think it's grittier. I liked all the stuff in the back, like when they go back to, like, the war. All those scenes is amazing, especially for, like, if you like desolate sci-fi and post-apocalyptic sort of stuff.
Who doesn't?
Yeah, who does, yeah. Just like, the skulls and, like, stuff going over skulls. And,
Skull Beach.
Yeah, and...
That's what upset me the most about Terminator Salvation was that, all right, we're finally going to get to that future.
Yep.
Look like crap.
And the best part of that, like, that movie, and every time it's... The guy that's on the phone, and he's like, my bike broke down, and then Arnie, like, just grabs him out the phone box. He looks so weird. He's like this big dude with a big bushy beard, and he's like, and then as Arnie's on the phone, he's like, "Hey man, you got a serious attitude problem," and I laugh every single time. I don't know why.
Every time I watch Aliens, every time I watch The Terminator, and every time I even watch Tombstone, I'm just so upset. I'm like, why wasn't Michael Biehn an A-list actor forever, ever?
Cocaine's a hell of a drug.
I was going to say, turns out he was a massive dick.
Yeah, he...
Saw him at a convention. So excited. I mean, literally wetting my pants with anticipation. He's late. He's really late for his talk. And when he's finally on stage, he is stoned.
Oh,
and
man.
it's just like crushed. This guy is going off on tangents that make no sense at all. It was just like, never meet your heroes.
And this the man that was more sober than James Remar to be featured in Aliens.
Yeah, well, which not many people could say. He recently voiced himself as Hicks for there's a different version of Alien 3, and they did an audiobook of it.
Is it good?
Yeah, well, this one.
So that's the change.
So Sigourney Weaver's not really in this one at all. It's they go onto that prison planet, and it's just Bishop and Hicks, and it's
what? That sounds great.
It is. It's the one that they passed over, and then they made Alien 3, and
wow,
yeah,
okay.
It's not great. But yeah, they got him back to do the voice of Hicks for it. So I think he's just clawing his way back.
Have you done a Terminator cosplay?
I have. It was crap.
Yeah? Is it because you were just Sarah Connor in a diner outfit?
I was. I've been wanting to do that costume for so long.
I'm keen to see it too. For reasons. Can I have photos? I'm not going to do nothing with them. I just want them. I absolutely love the 80s and 90s, particularly like RoboCop, Terminator. I grew up in a small town, so to me, cities... Nighttime cities with wet streets. That's how I thought all cities were. I thought every single manhole cover was open and had steam coming out of it because of the look. You know that blue light look that you get from Terminator, particularly the first one, where every street's wet. There's either a red light bouncing off it or a blue light bouncing off it. And much like, funnily enough, with the IMDb video that's next to it, much like the new season of Stranger Things, they really, well, particularly this season, they really harked on the Terminator things.
And then some, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. I hated it and then loved it. I revisited it and loved it. What do you think of Terminator 2?
I love it. I really do. I mean, there is a hair's breadth between the two, but the rawness of the first movie and that feeling of discovering a new film that you just weren't prepared for.
Yep.
Yeah, I was expecting some schlocky action sci-fi piece, and it just blew my mind. So poor little Steve kind of drove back home with tatters of brain matter all over the back of his chair of a car.
Which is what 2 was for me, and it's just because that's the first one I saw. Like, I'm sure I would have had the same connection with the first one, other than being it.
I think I said before, like, I recently caught some of the second one again. I hadn't seen that movie for ages. Edward Furlong's great in that movie. Like, as for the role that he plays, yeah, it's dated as hell. He's very 90s. He's 90s, like, encapsulated in one kid.
Well,
but he's really good.
As I said, a big part of me realising how much I had aged was the deep-seated, unbridled hatred I have for precocious kids in movies, where they're just the worst, and I just want them all to be flamethrowered. But he nails it in that. And James Cameron, Spielberg, there's about 5 directors that I don't know what they do with kid actors, and don't take that out of context, but they really managed to get genuine performances out of kids.
Well, he's funny in that movie, like understated, and also like, you know, and then like, but then he's like, you know, got tears in his eyes, like in the back of the car when like, you know,
he's the Feldman of the 90s.
Let's put him above that. He's the Haim of the 90s.
No, he made it out.
Yeah. And then he did, was it Crow 3?
City of Angels.
That's
a good one.
Yeah, no, Ferland did he's back on track now. I think he's done like quite a few dramas. So
now I realise, Steve, you have picked the 3 best films from James Cameron on your list.
Oh, Cameron's the dude.
He is I call him Uncle James because he's my go-to guy, because I love every now and then when people stop caring about Avatar, because I just don't care. No one cares. But he's making 8 more. Who cares? Every now and then he comes out and be's a grumpy old man, much like Spielberg does nowadays when they come out and Netflix can't win Oscars. Bye. See you, everyone. Watch the re-released Schindler's List. See you later. And James Cameron's always like, this is the best Terminator ever. I didn't make it, but I'm an executive producer and I get money, but this one's the one. Go see Genesis. Shut up, Uncle James. You have picked from 1986 Aliens.
Aliens is just... again, there is a hair's breadth between Alien and Aliens. My dad had to take me to go and see Alien because I was too young to go and see it in the cinema. But I already had the Photo Buster book, which showed the film in loving, gory detail. So I was fully prepared for this film. I still closed my eyes before the chestburster scene came on because I was just terrified. But I discovered later the editor actually put in a double beat with that. There's a moment where you think it's going to happen and you close your eyes. He puts a double beat in there.
So you reopen them.
To give you enough time to reopen your eyes, and that's when it happens. And it's like, oh my God, that's what he did to me as well.
I love the story that Only Hurt knew that it was like the extent of the practical effect, and so everyone's reaction is so genuine in that first Alien with the chest burster because no one knew that's what what was going to happen. I think the first Alien is a masterclass in slow burn horror.
Oh, absolutely.
And very few directors can nail slow burns, and just the way that is handled. And then Aliens is the coolest science fiction action film ever. And I still remember the feeling I get when the wall starts when that whole wall of xenomorphs starts moving. That is, oh man, I didn't want to clean my pants that day.
But look, it's Bill Paxton's film all the way.
100%. Which is,
hey man,
we recently on the podcast covered Alien 3, and damn, man, that is the biggest slap in the face to a franchise, I think, in the history of film.
No, because if you're a big fan of Alien, you're always wondering about the engineers and those big things in there. And then Prometheus came out and you're like, okay.
Well, I remember for Aliens, it was the first time our group of friends all went to the film in costume, and there's a big group of us. And our costumes were crap. They really were. We literally just made up outfits out of military fatigues and giant glued together guns with flash strobes in the end, running up and down the Rundle Mall, shooting at everything that moved. We had a great time, and seeing the film and everything with all of us together was just fantastic. We came out of that just going nuts. It's like, oh my God, it was a perfect film experience that you don't get to have those too often.
Paul has let me know that I'm not allowed to have an actual opinion on Aliens films because Resurrection's my introduction to the franchise.
Okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
This film also marks... so when they released the extended cut of this, I was so happy because it gave so much more backstory to Newt. And they did like... there was heaps more stuff on LV-426 and that... And you saw... the captain from Red Dwarf. It was in the start of it. They wasn't in there before. There's like that marks like this is why this one's good for me. It's like I think they actually showed it on TV, and I had the VHS I had wasn't long enough. Like I had a 3-hour tape, and it went over 3 hours. And like I mean, I don't think they did much to the anime, but like there was so much extra stuff in there. I went to school the next day. I'm like, don't you see? There's like this bit, and everyone's just like looking at me blankly. I was like, no, like there's extra bits to it. So that was like a bit of a prophecy of where I'm going to be.
Well, I still have my Marines costume from 1986.
Nice. From your stripper days?
Yeah.
You mean Space Marines.
My
Sorry.
Space Marine. And that's been repainted about 10 times. But my big goal is I still want to make a Power Loader costume.
Yeah.
That thing is
Have you
amazing.
seen there's one online for one of the cons where the dad had the baby carrier on the front and just
That's
dressed as a loader
fantastic.
himself. It was
Yeah.
amazing. Oh man, have you played Alien Isolation, the virtual reality game?
Yes, we have.
Mate,
There was much screaming.
that's the day when I went, all right, we've gone too far. Our hubris is going to ruin us. It is terrifying. I was like, I'm just going to hide in a locker. So I was like, and because my wife was watching it, like where we were playing it, she's watching and she talked to me and I said something and you see the volume reader go, the game's my wife's like, what? I'm like, no, the stage is finished. And you just see the action still happening. I'm like, nah, too scary. That is terrifying.
When we mention aliens, especially this year, I have to say that because of the 40 year anniversary, Fox released 6 10-minute shorts of new stuff. So it's like it's all done by different like up and coming directors, and it's probably the best alien stuff I've seen in years. Like better than Prometheus, better than Resurrection. Sorry, and Alien vs Predator. Like they're just like it's an ongoing story in 6 parts, and I think if that's where they're heading with the franchise, which I hear now Ridley Scott's going to come back and do. Like another one.
Let Uncle James put some blueies in there and have a crossover. Whatever it takes to get James Cameron back involved.
Oh man, they need to have some fresh blood in that. I don't know why they keep letting him come back, but
And we've spoken many times before on the show about Hearts of Darkness gets so much love for being the greatest doco about the making of a film ever. When the extended Blu-rays and that came out of Aliens, the behind the scenes docos on that is the most in-depth doco of it, even to the point almost of the Lord of the Rings trilogy.
It's a 2-hour doc, I think. Yeah, it's
where
really
they cover
good.
everything. They cover the training they did as Marines, which hilariously Michael Biehn didn't get to do any of it. So they're meant to be a unit, and it's like, oh yeah, I'm your heroic leader. Nice to meet you all. How was training? The guy that trained them, he actually used to like beat people up if they pointed their weapons at people. Like he was straight up.
Yeah.
And
he's Apon in it, isn't it?
Yeah. And they have also the loader vehicle, the car, just got stuck in gear and fully ploughed through a heap of camera people.
Yep.
And so in the doco, they've got like the safety advisor, and she's like, yeah, so they're really angry with me, but I shut down production for 2 weeks because people nearly got killed that day. It's like amazing. I cannot recommend it highly enough. So that is what I think about your choice. I hope you got a word in there somewhere.
Yeah.
All right, we might go to a little bit more music as we continue the list. This is DVG. It is 100.5 WOWFM. There we heard from Galactic Empire with the Cantina Band. This is DVG as we continue the top 10 films from our good friend Steve, the most passionate man of film fans that I've ever met, which is a compliment. And next time you and Paul have to have screen accurate working lightsabers when you talk about Sucker Punch, which we'll have to do on the podcast because I'm sure the language will be brilliant. The next film is from 1977. It's a disco movie. Star Wars. Tell us about this film, A New Hope.
Oh my God. I'm a little kid. Dad takes me to go and see it. My life is ruined forever. Any hope of a normal existence is thrown by the wayside because this film...
And not just because he left you there.
That's right. It consumed me. It just absolutely ate me up, and there was nothing out there. I mean, I had a comic, and I had a poster, and that was it. There was nothing else. There was no toys. It was so...
well, even the first Christmas, you got a piece of cardboard with the picture of the toys on it, saying, this is what you get when we finish them. Wow.
But it was just, it was nuts. I got to see it twice the first time it got released. And I'm really sorry to say that although I remember the experience of going to see it, I don't actually remember seeing Star Wars. All I have is the effect it had on me.
Yeah.
When it was re-released, I was actually old enough to be actually go and see it by myself. And that's when it changed, because I saw it 3 times in one day. I saw it straight out, back in again, saw it straight out, back in again. And it was just like, my God, this movie's amazing. I haven't been able to see this film for years. This is incredible. And of course, you know, there was no video or anything. It was, you had to see it in the cinema. And, you know, by then town halls were playing it, and when I'd go on holidays, they'd be playing it in the local place there. Eventually I got to see it a few more times, but oh man, talk about just a life-altering experience. Such a great film on just every level. And nothing happens. For the first third of the film, there's nothing going on. And it's completely gripping.
What? I'm going to open a Pandora's box, I believe. What did you think of Last Jedi?
I try not to think about it.
Okay.
Nah, you don't get to like Sucker Punch and not like Last Jedi. I defend that movie so much to everyone, because it's like, I'm one of those people who's like, if there's Star Wars in the movies, I'm happy. It doesn't have to be perfect, and it's got humor in it, and I thought it was charming, and I don't care that Princess Leia can fly through space. She can do whatever she damn well she wants to.
You lost me at Casino Planet. Sorry, I'm out.
Casino Planet's great. Love it. It's, as I said, it's best. Is that scene works just to set it up for the end, when that little kid at the end has got the broom, and it's like,
I just love all the complimentary stories of the making of Star Wars. Like, I love a lot of how much George Lucas just made up on the fly, and he's like, "Oh no, it's part of a trilogy." And like, you never said that the entire time we're making it. Oh no, it definitely is.
Oh, you'd be surprised. I've got so many I've got every newspaper clipping from 77, 78, you know. And there's some weird, interesting little bits that keep popping up amongst all that. I've got
Splinters
bits
of the Mind's Eye or something.
Oh yeah, that's the first novel that came out with Alan Dean Foster. Oh man, there's just, it was literally, there was nothing like it in our world up to that point. You know, there was a few sci-fi films, and you know, they weren't sort of that family friendly thing. It was all dystopian future history of just depression. But oh man, it just blew everything away, and I couldn't get enough of it after it came out. I backtracked through everything that ever came on TV. They used to play bad sci-fi movies on TV from 11 o'clock at night through to 6 o'clock in the morning, and I'd just stay up all night watching all these things. I got in trouble. We went on a camp once, and Dr. Strangelove was playing for the first time. I was so desperate to see Dr. Strangelove. I snuck out of this camp and walked for several kilometres to get to a friend's house to watch the film at 1 o'clock in the morning, and then headed back to camp. Suffice to say, I had been caught missing from the tent and got in huge trouble over it. But it was so worth it. It was such a good film.
And you didn't help yourself by coming back with a Slim Pickings cowboy hat
and a nuclear weapon.
Yeah. You wrote it in, and you're like, "Where have you been?" Nowhere.
Where's Major Kong?
Lego would no longer exist if it wasn't for Star Wars.
Oh yeah, that's a major
by
influence.
licensing the Star Wars property that saved Lego, which was going into receivership and pretty much folding.
That's a strange concept, actually. No Lego. Yeah.
There would be no Lego. Now we are going to talk about your favourite Mad Max film that does not feature Tina Turner. So why don't you tell us what it is?
All right, Mad Max 2, Road Warrior, and when it came out, I was actually against it because it was advertised as Australia's Star Wars. And I was like, but But Star Wars is number one. Nothing can beat Star Wars. So I refused to see Mad Max 2. I eventually caught up with it at the drive-in. I was sitting behind the wheel of my dad's Falcon Ute, which essentially was a Ute version of the XB. And I lost my mind. I don't know how I managed to make it home because I'm convinced I must have been doing well over the speed limit, pretending I was being chased by every single marauder from the film and just barreling down a country road in the middle of the night at high speed.
Somewhere else in Australia right now on a community radio show is the guy telling the story of being next to you watching Mad Max. It's like, and he was moving his arm and he had a fried chicken. And it was really weird. This film created post-apocalyptic films.
Oh, absolutely.
And it also... I mean, George Miller is an absolute genius in the sense of turning literal garbage dumps into production value. Like, and half an hour outside of my hometown, which is just pretty much, it's a bit green.
Garbage dump with production value.
The Monday Monday Plane Lookout is the setting of the major set piece of this film. Pretty much the entire thing set out in Silverton, in and around the hills and that. Oh man, this film is... First time I saw it was on TV, and then about...
So you would have got the edited version?
4 or 5 years later, I watched it, and I'm like, no one burned to death in Mad Max 2. What is this?
Yeah.
It is an R-rated film for sure.
Oh, hell yeah. But at the end, it's raw, it's real, there's the stunts are literally being performed in conditions that there's no safety wires, there's some hairy stuff going on in this film. I mean, there's some sequences where you see vehicles literally barely in control as they barrel along, and it's like it's only the driving skills of the stuntmen that prevent a major bloody disaster.
Well, you look at the amount of practical... Well, every stunt in this is a practical stunt. And you look, there's the motorbike crash where the guy just lands in the cardboard boxes. That is insanity. All of those peoples with first and last names that are of the Bennett family. You watch the trailer to this, it's like, there's Addie's family tree. But yeah, shout out to our good friend Addie, former host Grant as well, because they're living the love of this film, much like yourself. You travel overseas to pursue your love of this film.
This is where it gets really interesting.
No, we'll be the judge of that. Thank you.
It is interesting. For years, decades, I was this lone Mad Max fan. Nobody else I knew really had the same passion for it.
You kept running over people's kids with your
Well, there's a thing, but you do it once or twice and they get used to it. But then I discovered there's this community out there spread all over the world, and they are a hardcore, devoted fandom for Mad Max. It's interesting to see the different styles of fandom in America, in Australia, in Europe, in Japan, but I've discovered there is a group in America that have an event called Wasteland Weekend, and this year is my 5th year of attending the event, and it is the immersive post-apocalyptic event of the world. It is unparalleled in its awesomeness. And to be able to walk through this space and literally imagine that you are the last pocket of survivors of humanity, fighting the dust, the lack of water, the heat, and that stuff is really happening because it is hot and dusty and windy and there's nowhere to hide from it. But it's oh my god, it's so good. I just can't wait to go back.
I would like to come next time and we could dress up as Master and Blaster and I'll carry you on my shoulders. Be great, upset everyone.
Well, there's a Thunderdome there and I've fought in the Thunderdome.
Nice. Does it have bungees?
It has bungees.
Oh, man.
It is.
That sounds like
you can climb all over the top of it and look at it from 5 meters up in the air, and both people are bungee corded into a harness, pulled back by their ankles to the sides of the Thunderdome and let fly at each other, and they fight each other with giant foam bats. Sometimes they just throw the bats aside and claw at each other and punch and kick, and they get pulled apart. But it's crazy fun and it's exhausting.
I loved, right after Addie opened the Mad Max 2 museum in Silverton, going in there and just, I love poking the bear with Daddy because obviously he's living his love of a film. I was just going around looking at the photos. I'm like, oh, that's from the Duran Duran Wild Boys music video. And I was like, oh, and that's from Beyond Thunderdome, is that right? And it's funny because the joke just never got old because he still got upset every time. Yeah, when you go to the Wasteland meetup, you're like, Aussie, I'm an Aussie.
Yeah, we wear our Aussie with pride. It is like the gold standard. Man, it's like, you know, like the first class pass to everything, and I mean it's the whole.
Unless they've only ever seen the American dub. Like, what are you doing?
Oh look, it's just so much fun. It's just, I'm part of a tribe that recreates Mad Max 2, and we've got, if they ever all turn up at the same time, close to 20 replica vehicles in our tribe, and almost all the characters. We are getting so close to being able to field the entire Marauder team, the entire group. And I get the pleasure of playing Wes. And I have a bike, and I have a golden youth.
And you have arseless chaps?
And I have arseless chaps.
There it is.
The last time I wore them was so bloody hot. I ended up with 2 big brown squares on my ass, and they're still there.
That's an age issue. You should get that looked at. Oh, man, I wish movies had that kind of following. Like, obviously Mad Max 2 does. I wish there was that kind of fandom for everything. Like, you know what I mean? It's just such a passion. Like, it's very rare, particularly for... and let's face it, Mad Max 2 made the Australian film industry.
Oh, God, yes.
Between it and, to a lesser... Well, to an international extent, Crocodile Dundee, it put Australia on the map. And you look at the entire, exploitation, like rip-offs of Mad Max. You've got like Bronx Warriors 4 and 5.
All the Italian
ones. Yeah.
It wrote the standard by which all other post-apocalyptic films are judged. You know, it set up so many classic imagery that just everyone wants to copy it.
Would you say it's the best Charlize Theron prequel that there is?
Yes.
Sweet. We have run out of time, believe it or not. Is this the first time you've run out of time talking about Mad Max 2?
Yes. Yes, I have.
Steve, where can people check out your artwork?
On Instagram, the Toy Room Tattoo Emporium, or just under Toy Room Tattoo. And, probably find me on Facebook if you're interested at all. But
nice.
Hey, let me talk about Mad Max with you.
Beyond Thunderdome.
Shh. Quiet you.
3 and 4 is where it gets strong. You're never coming back home. And Bruce Spence looks like Corridor from the Plasmo cartoon. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Trust me, it fully does. This is DVG. Steve, thank you so very much for joining us. We will go out with one of your choices here on DVG.